Hello, I'm David Otey, and you're watching number 8 in a series of 9 videos around the theme of 9 clues for avoiding the most common mistakes that I see people make in technical presentations. The 9 letters in the phrase 9 clues are our roadmap, and we arrive now at the second E, which stands for ending with Q&A, that is, the question and answer session. You see this done so frequently that you may well be wondering, well, how can that be a mistake if everyone's making it? I said it was common, right? Here's why it's a mistake. You want your information to make a difference. For that to happen, your audience members have to make the decision to accept, remember, and take action on your information. So it turns out that being memorable is one of your keys to success. What are people going to remember from your talk? Most likely they'll remember the first thing that you say, the last thing you say, and something in between that startled them or surprised them in some way. Hall of Fame speaker Patricia Fripp says, "Last words linger." So you want to pay careful attention to that opportunity that you have to leave someone with a memorable thought or idea at the very end of your talk. And if the last thing people hear you say is, well, if there's no more questions, then I guess, thank you very much. How memorable is that? Instead, here's what you want to do. When you near the end of your talk, you want to say to your audience, I have a couple of minutes of closing remarks, but before I get to those, I'm sure you have questions, and I have a few minutes now to take those. Who has the first one to get us started? Notice I did not ask, are there any questions? And I want you to eliminate that question from your vocabulary. Why? Because there are always questions. You simply have to give people time and a safe space in which to formulate them. So instead of asking, are there any questions? You simply ask, who has the first one to get us started? And then, and this is very important, you close your mouth and silently and slowly count to 10. Why? Because most presenters at this point will not wait more than 2 seconds before moving on. And that is not enough time to formulate an intelligent question. You've got to give people time and a safe space to ask their question. And in that context, 10 seconds will seem like an eternity. Chances are that in that room there will be someone who can't stand 10 seconds of silence. And that person will speak up. Trust me, I've counted this so many times, it usually happens by 8 seconds. But someone will speak up with a question. On the rare occasion when that doesn't happen, here's what you do. After you've counted to 10, you simply say, a question I often get at this point is, and then you ask and answer your own question. After you've done that, you say, who's got the next one? And someone by that time will be ready to jump in. By the way, when you take questions, always develop the habit of repeating the question before you answer it. This is beneficial to everyone in the audience who didn't hear the original question, but it also benefits you in 2 ways. First, it makes sure that you are clear on the question you're answering, and second, it gives you more time to compose your thoughts. After you have answered your questions, you say, that's all the time we have right now for questions. If you didn't have a chance to get your question answered, please email it to me, because your email address will be on the screen at this point. And then you say, now, here are the closing remarks that I promised you. and you launch into the final minute or two of your prepared presentation. It's important you not introduce new information at this point because people won't have a chance to ask you questions about it. Instead, what you want to do is leave them with something memorable that highlights the main takeaways or takeaway from your talk. For example, you might tell a story or use some other illustration that weaves together a common thread throughout your main points. Or you might circle back to the beginning by saying something like, when I started, I promised you that you would pick up a new method for doing X. And as you've seen, the techniques you can use are A, B, and C. Or in the case of basic research, you might even introduce an idea that you have for future research that could build on your findings. Whatever you do, you're leaving them with something memorable that ties back to what you were talking about before you paused for the questions. Remember, last words linger. You'll be much more memorable that way than if the last thing you hear you say is, well, I guess there's no more questions. Even though you see that done all the time, that doesn't make it any less of a mistake. So avoid making the mistake of ending with Q&A. When I started this series of videos, I promised that the most common mistake that I see people make in technical presentations would come at the very end. So if you want to know what that is, make sure to watch video number 9 in this series. To do that, if you haven't already done so, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Or to learn more about me, visit my website, davidotey.com.